One more button to press. That away. Get started. So yeah, good morning, everyone coming in. For those that are coming different places or coming in later, my name is Peter SAKIEVICH, and I like to get up every morning and work on something new. And you know, for some of this is just for my own improvement, but also so I can bring new things to my students at the university where I teach, but also online at the little website I have, myartprofessor.com. And so lately, this summer, I've been working a lot with Blender, different aspects of it that I want to get better at, so kind of working through those gradually. I'm pretty comfortable with 3D modeling and things like that. I just haven't really used this program very much, but mostly I'm a 2D person, you know, different kinds of media, you know, everything from drawing through most painting mediums. And then, of course, I've done a lot of 2D digital stuff over the years in professional areas. We started this yesterday to follow up to the ortho that I was doing. And kind of my goals with this one is sculpting the whole body, but also I want to try and get into some of the fur stuff. And so we're not at that phase yet, obviously, but this is what we got to yesterday, starting off with, let's see, where's that image at? Screenshots. So that's what we started with yesterday. Over here. So I did kind of a rough block out of the thing, and then we've been sculpting it in, and it's always helpful to have, you know, the overnight or the period in between. So kind of looking at it now, I feel like his head should be wider a bit, and then maybe a little bit longer. Is what I'm thinking here. So not as much longer as it, but this definitely be wider. So that's the first thing that sticks out to me, and that's usually what I kind of try to do and help my students understand is, because often you can kind of get hung up on chasing, you know, 1,000 things. You know, like I see this bump right here, or this angle right here, and like that's not quite right or what I want just yet, or you know, the hooves or something like that. But usually, it's a lot easier when you're sitting down to work if you kind of identify a fairly limited set of things to fix. I usually like to go with 3 to 5 things initially to fix. So I was pointing out, you know, the 2 things on the head that should be a little wider and a little bit longer, and then also the ear angle needs to go out. So the ears kind of tucked back, and they should be kind of pointing out. So, you know, those are like 3 things that are easy to spot that I can fix now. And there might be other things I need to do too, but that's I think a good place for me to start. So that's what we'll do this morning. And so for the morning study, I like to do this for about an hour, hour and a half in the morning. I'm trying to start around 7. A little late this morning. I decided to, you can see if you're over on the YouTube side, I gave myself a haircut this morning. So before I get cleaned up in the shower, I should do that real quick. So I have gotten all shorn up. So here we are. Let's see. Got some music and get going on this morning. Do let me know if there are any questions. Let's grab elastic grab one. So definitely widen up that face. I know there was like a silhouette white thing. I think that might be a good one to grab. A little bit wider. A little bit wider. Wider there. Down. This whole thing down. So let grab. Regular grab. And forward. Eyes will need to move around a bit too, but the eyeballs themselves. Widen out that whole area there. Get that up. So yeah, that's what we're going to start with. So I'm just using the grab brush here to grab things. Spot. And definitely this phase, you don't want to be over invested in any details like that in that fold. Should probably get rid of that. Schnoz. Down. One of the other things I like to do for myself, just generally speaking, is I like to set up my shortcuts so that they work universally for the most part. So like the brush change size here, I like to use the front button, and I have that set to the key, which I think in here is F. Yeah, F. Shift, if I hold that and drag, that changes the intensity. So Shift F does that. But I like to do that just so that when I'm working across programs, I don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about stuff. It's like we got a thought to delete over on the Twitch side. In there. Just leave it here. Or go to the dashboard. Never mind. They don't matter now, I guess. screen. Sometimes I don't know why this does it. Once in a while, the screen will kind of turn off. Corrected it in their spot. Where my reference go? Good morning. Let's see, your ref. So you are. And here's my reference page. So anyway, yeah. So that's what I have to do first thing in the morning is this kind of thing. So moving stuff around a little bit. Seems okay. And then we mentioned, so we lengthened the face, we widened the jaw. A little wider, I think, back here. I thought it could be cool to do some skull studies too. Interesting. But again, I do like to keep the study time limited so that way I can focus on the actual work I want to do during the day. So let's go over to object. Let's just go to this one next. The ears. And this will be wart.hog. Mirroring for empty. Let's go to the ears and switch back to the skull. Tab. Object. So let's see to. So I want to do. Let's see. Stop. Shift. While we're at it, I want to go ahead. Overlay, select. I think there's a thing where I can select the. Is this one? Where did I put that? Item. How about two? Origin. That's what I want. They can move the origin. So, and that'll make rotating it easier. Turn that off. So now I want to rotate that. Back. Up a little bit. And then also kind of do some sculpting on there to put it in the right spot. But anyway, those are three big things I noticed. We'll deal with the feet later, so I don't want to move them around too much. So, looking at these tusks here, do the same thing with moving those tusks around. So I want to move origin, set origin to geometry. We're using an empty to veer off of. Now I can move it there. And then so I'm looking at this one. His is like rotated more like that. Better. The same thing for this guy. Set origin to geometry. And select the origin. Good. This thing needs to go down. There we go. So, yeah, just trying to kind of get this gesturally fixed up. Like, you know, I'm going to move this flap forward and some other things too. But that definitely had to get bigger. That looks better. Look, maybe this can come down. Yeah, tail too, which I haven't put on. But, maybe I should pull that out and stick it out. That's why I need the eyeballs in place. See, set origin to geometry. It doesn't freak out when I move it. That. So that should go higher. Starting to feel a lot better. Now if we put like put down some lines. There. There. A great shot of the mouth up there, I guess. there. That makes it a lot easier to sculpt if I feel like, at least, that things are more or less in the right spot. Like where people care about faces. So, you know, even the face of a warthog, right? As usual, let me know if there's any questions while I'm working here. Don't mind chatting while working. So we should this way. The wrong thing up here. Outline properties, asset value. You. Showing it as active or alphabetically. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. You there. So that's probably going to be work. And there we go. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Alright, that's a better organization. Scene. Get rid of this collection here. Alright. I always like to say I'm a fan of 3D, but I am not a 3D expert. So I'm going to sculpt on these ears a little bit, and they're shaping. And bring this basic flap over. This hopefully not punch through. That's better. So So, but yeah, so it's just kind of working through fixing things as I go. Made the head a little bigger and fix some of its silhouetting issues. Just working on his ear. That's got a nice little notch in there. I like. That's a little detail to save for later, I guess. Might be a little bit large. Fix. Pull forward too. Let's up here. Before I do that. Alright, now we can make it a little bit smaller. Like that. Out. Rotate. Z. Sculpt. Close enough for the top or too far? Yeah, one of the things I like to do, as I was explaining earlier, is when I'm going to kind of go and fix something, I like to find things that are really specific that stand out a lot to me. And so I'll kind of look through and say, all right, in both places. I don't know what that means, but oh well. Doesn't really matter. Good morning, Bosch. Tabs. All right. I'm going to take a break on the head for a minute. Let's see. Some drawing on over here. Third in the way on that one. All right. Hello, good morning. Over there on Twitch. Doing good, just working on my morning study. So, let's see, time, how long have I been on? 45, about halfway through. So, yeah, I like to get up every morning. If you haven't heard my spiel, spend about an hour and a half. Sometimes less, sometimes a little more, just depending on what's going on. And kind of work on something that I want to be better at. So Blender has always kind of been one of those things I wanted to get better at. So this summer I spent a lot of time kind of earlier in the summer working through material nodes and things, which I did not broadcast because, you know, linking nodes and things is just, and this is already, art streams are already sufficiently boring. Yeah, so I'm working on some sculpts. I just did, let me pull up my little, so this is where we started yesterday morning. So I just kind of blocked it out and then unified into one mesh. And then this is where we were at the end. So from there to there, about an hour and a half, which, you know, probably a little bit, there's probably, you know, professional sculptors that get that done way faster. And then I just finished this guy the other day. So I did a bust of a horned toad. So part of what I was doing is I've done 3D stuff before. I'm mostly a 2D person, but I think I've done 3D stuff since, you know, like 2002 or 3, off and on. But I just haven't really done it really much in Blender as much. A little bit, but not. You know, I'm trying to kind of understand the tools better, and so that's a screenshot from there. Why don't I go ZBrush? Well, actually, what's funny is I can get ZBrush for free. So I get the whole Maxon library for free. I've actually bought ZBrush back in 2004 or 3, one of the two, something like that. And so I'm familiar with ZBrush. Let's see if I were to pull up my, let's see, where's my website? There it is. So, this is my portfolio site here, so I'm just going over to the 3D page. There it is. So that's some Blender stuff. This guy is in 3D. Never quite got around to finishing this one. This was done in ZBrush. But these are all past ZBrush sculpts. These actually go back a ways, like 2014 or 16, something like that. So, and some hard surface stuff in ZBrush, and I've also got stuff on here from so this is Nomad Sculpt on the iPad. Don't ask to see the geometry on that. Same thing with this guy. This guy's nice little concept model approach on him. So, so why not ZBrush? Well, first of all, I don't like a lot of the practices a lot of these companies have adopted related to subscriptions. And Maxon is also gradually adding in more generative AI into their systems, so I don't like that. And and I've always wanted to kind of get better at Blender stuff anyway, because of the variety of things you can do in here. And so it's practice. And really these brushes and things, you know, a lot of the processes I'm trying to use in here, I'm thinking, well, what I did in ZBrush was this, so I should do this. So it definitely kind of influences what I'm doing. And obviously, you can't, the level of detail that you can get in ZBrush or something like Nomad Sculpt is much higher. And Nomad Sculpt, by the way, is on PC now. So, but I want to become more fluent in using Blender. So that's why it's a new thing for me, as opposed to just you know, sticking with what I already know. I really haven't used ZBrush in a while either, so. But it's also like, yeah, I pulled back on using most Adobe stuff, and I get all that for free. shifted over to using things like Affinity or the iPad apps that I like. Um, so that's why. Really, like you look at like ever since they were acquired by Maxon, like they haven't really done that much. I mean, they put it on the iPad, which is I guess good. Um, but I guess it's fine. Um, yeah, so yeah, I liked ZBrush. Used it for a long time. There are some things I want to do in here that are don't work quite as well as ZBrush. So like I want to put fur on the guy later, and then I want to put some bones in him so I can at least pose him. I'm not really planning on animating anything, but so it's part of like a larger set of things that I'm trying to accomplish. So all those reasons. Also, because of the university where I teach at, when students graduate, I think it's helpful for them to uh, kind of have exposure to some of these alt tech things. The non-Adobe, the non-Maxon library. And I think it behooves me as an educator to become familiar with those things, like learning to use Studio Paint, which is really popular. I'm familiar with most of the iPad apps, Procreate. But my favorite one is Infinite Painter. I think it does a lot of really cool stuff that other apps don't do. And so that's become kind of my default is that one. And it seems like it's going okay. The Blender has improved the speed at which it handles models. These high poly counts in the sculpting mode, and it's not 100% perfect, and my computer's getting a little long in the tooth. It's I built it like 4-ish years ago, something like that, and first time I built a PC, seems like it's still kicking along. I did add in another hard drive. I needed the extra hard drive space, but and I've got 2 disk drives in there. But let's see back there, so it looks like there's kind of a cut through there. It goes that way, and then this comes back out. So I spent quite a bit of time on the last one. So if you go back and watch the last set of streams, they're probably still up on like the YouTube page. But I spent quite a bit of time on that horned toad head. Um, you know, because I was kind of going through some of the tools and things, making sure I understood how they work. So, are you a ZBrush person? Assuming you're still there. There's nothing wrong with ZBrush particularly. I just I don't like the trajectory it's on. It's definitely become the industry standard. They I saw the other day that they're ending support for Mudbox over with over at where they do Maya Max and that. Interesting. I remember when that first launched. That's really what scared ZBrush into becoming what it is now. Was the launch of Mudbox all those years ago. ZBrush was originally, because I bought it back in like 2004, 2003, something like that. I saved up as a student to buy it specifically for my senior project. So it's definitely pricey. It's cheaper back then than it was just before they went with Maxon. It was $450 or something like that. I think in recent years it was like $900 to buy it. Which if you're using it professionally, it's definitely a worthwhile purchase. But when it first came out, it was really designed to be a 2.5D illustration program. That was the intent that the creator had for it, which nobody wanted, right? Nobody cares about that. What people liked about it was the 3D stuff. It was getting used extensively in Lord of the Rings, but it was just tricky because it really wasn't being built for 3D at the time. And so but when Mudbox was released, I think that kind of shook the guy out of his fixation on the 2.5D thing. And they pivoted into becoming a 3D program. It still has a lot of the residue of that original push into that 2.5D thing. That's where you have to like hit T when you put a model in there, otherwise it drops it. Or if you do hit T, it drops it. His idea was you create these high intensity detail models and then you drop it to the canvas in order to kind of save memory, and then you can add in more models as you go and create these 2.5D illustrations. And well, it's a neat idea. It's like nobody really had any use for that. Like that's an extremely niche thing. Right, if you look up there are people that do like 3D illustrations, like 3D 3D stuff like that, but in actual 3D, other people do like physical models, like they have physical models that they'll make and photograph them. I think is pretty cool. Something I've ever done, don't really have that much interest in doing, but when it's done well, like it looks really neat. And then this morning when I got up, I spent a lot of time kind of fixing the head proportions, and so that was kind of the focus. I still feel like this is too high up. Just a bit lower. But we'll chase that later. So those are, that's a little history there, I guess, a history of the Z brush. Yeah, that's why one of the reasons why ZBrush is such a strange program too. Like it's got a lot of weird quirks in it, and part of this is related to what the original intent was by the creator to turn it into a 2.5D illustration program. Yeah, I think it was. I believe it was. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was Weta that really kind of got Mudbox going, and they sold it because they were looking for something like ZBrush, but would actually be built for 3D, and it had a lot more of like a Photoshop interface. But it looks like so they announced like basically it's dead officially now, but they stopped development on it years ago already, just because ZBrush is way more popular. So have a good top view of these guys. Yeah, but Blunder's done a lot to kind of catch up in certain ways, which I really appreciate, and I don't mind showing my support. What's up, puppy?
Dog's asking me a question. What would you like, Wash? Some acknowledgement. Because your human is busy talking to himself, huh? Talking to the wall.
It's fun to get up and do something new, right? So, got 25 minutes left, I guess. 20 minutes left. Try to keep it timed. That also just helps me stay focused on achieving particular goals. And I can try to keep them very low poly while we're working. Oh, this looks like a cow from underneath. Here's the rotated. On the top of his head. Too much of a bump there. It kind of goes. And that'll let the head also get its neck connection higher up. Alright. So I want to move this down too. So that should be where the side view. Good. Just right here. There. It's always save, right? Dog and beds. Good morning. We did it your way with that. Is that okay? I was looking at the connection here. There's the jaw coming down. Trying to make it work properly. I think we're making some good progress. We've gone. Yesterday we were here, and then we went to here, and we're there. Bring that chest down a little bit. Just look at these different photos. Maybe we could do a little different. Yeah, so don't hesitate to ask questions. Yes. responding. Okay, good. Oof. Make sure it's saved. So I should probably play with our mat caps, huh? There we go. I can see some of the lumpy bits a little better. Good morning. It's on for a couple more minutes. All right. I think it's a good spot to pause. Yeah, I do feel like that's kind of a good spot to pause for today. Be back at this tomorrow. Hopefully around 7 a.m. I might be back later today with some my own stuff, but I think that's good progress. So appreciate everybody that came in, and we'll talk to you all later.